everybody. Good whatever time it may be across the pond. Indeed. My chat is very small for some reason. Good morning. I just fixed the full screen issue. Apparently if I click off the game, it goes back to not full screen for some reason. There we go. We're back with Costume Quest 2 with no Penny. Sad. There's a glass. Let's go. Okay, so we were heading back. If I remember correctly, we were heading back to. We need to find that time hole and get back to Lucy and Everett in the future. And find the candy bear in the future somewhere. Ghost Munch Dupe. Oh, Ghost Munch Dupe? Where? Thomas's Bubble Bar. Where? Lower Bayou? French Quarter? Alright, well, we'll take a look. The other thing is we have to go find Shady. Well, we know where Shady is. But we have to go to Shady because I got us some special costumes. By being a little sneaky. A little bit sneaky. I figured out how to use a hex editor. And I didn't completely break the game. Thank God. Hey, Shady. So... Oh yeah, we can get some upgrades. But we can also get Sackboy, Robot, which we're definitely getting Robot, Unicorn, Pumpkin, and Eyeball. Yay! We get our costumes back! I don't know how good they are, but I'm gonna use them anyways. I will get Sackboy because I can. Because it's funny. Yes. Okay. Ah, look at Sackboy! Look at the Sackboy costume, that's so stupid. Okay, focus cute damage. Strong versus magic, weak versus tech. Robot is strong versus tech and weak versus magic. Attack. Damage. What the heck is cute damage? Heals. We'll give Unicorn. There we go. Magic monster. Yeah, Little Big Planet. It is from Little Big Planet. Alright, we'll do that. Look at us! It's just like the first game! It's fine. I can never remember words either. But yeah. It is exactly Little Big Planet. It was for the PlayStation pre-order. So all of these costumes that I just got were for pre-order. For pre-ordering this game. And for the PlayStation pre-order, you got Sackboy. Yeah, I probably played a bajillion hours of Little Big Planet too. All 3 or 4 of them. But yeah. So these were all pre-order costumes for pre-ordering the game, but you can also get them by hex editing the game. Well, time hole is somewhere over here. Where did it go? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what? I think when we took the clock from Canoculus, we made it impossible for Everett to steal it from him in the future. So? Can't we just use it to open a new time hole? Maybe. Nope, I don't know how to work it. Does that mean y'all are trapped here? Cool, we can hang out more. Little Big Planet legend. Yeah. No, it's not cool. We need to get home. I know. What are you doing? Oh, yeah, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that? Hey, Monty, I need you to do us a huge favor. Sure, what? I need you to remember where I buried this clock. Do I look stupid? You just buried it in front of me. How could I forget? I mean, you have to remember it for like 20 years. 20 years? Why? Because in 20 years, our friend Everett is gonna live here. You need to tell him that this clock is buried under his house, so he can get us out of here. Okay, Everett, 20 years. Got it. Monty, you promised! I promise! I won't forget! Sheesh! You did it! Thanks, Monty! I did? Well, I told you I would. I guess it's a goodbye. I guess this is goodbye, Monty. Thanks for everything, Monty. Bye, Monty. Bye, guys. Bye, Monty. Hey, guys. We know you were able to stop the Chronoculus. That was good. Dr. White won't be able to manipulate time anymore. But nothing here has changed. So he must have still stolen the talisman, huh? Yeah, sorry. He sicked his time wizard on us and snuck out. What are we gonna do? Open another time hole to escape? I'm not leaving without our daughter. You guys have a daughter? Uh-oh. Look at the way he walks. What a nerd. Costume violation! Costume violation! Guards, get this infernal thing out of here. Yes, Dr. White. And bring me that clock. No, you will never use this again. Lucy, what did you do? We'll be stuck here forever. Should not have done that. Guards, take these two away and throw the book at them. Throw a book at them? What book? Put them in jail, you imbecile. Lucy, Everett. It looks like these two little lawbreakers need an education. Enroll them in the Tooth Academy at once. Ow, hey! Get off me, you smelly grubbin! It's familiar. Uh-oh. Okay, human children, simmer down. Nothing has changed because nothing could have changed from their perspective, because the timeline where the clock is buried under Everett's house is the only timeline they've lived in. That is what the smile was like. Luke, I think your comment broke my brain. Nothing has changed because nothing could have changed from their perspective, because the timeline where the clock is buried under Everett's house is the only timeline they've lived in. Nope, I still don't understand it. Sorry. Okay, human children, simmer down. Today we're gonna review last night's reading lesson. From Everett's perspective. No, that still doesn't help me. I'm sorry. I may be stupid. Afterwards, you'll have a half-hour break for recreational flossing. Now, let's see who did their reading. Who can tell me about Halloween? Is it a hall where they keep weenies? No, Bert, it is not a hall where they keep... It's a fart! Duncan, no more outbursts from you. What is Halloween? I know. Okay, new kid. Remy, is it? Tell us about Halloween, please. Halloween is the best holiday ever. Everyone gets to wear awesome costumes, and you get free candy. Wrong. Now I can see why you were sent to the academy. You need some serious education. Can someone tell Remy what Halloween really is? It was a night of evil where parents tricked kids into eating poison. Well done, Laird. You did your reading. You get a gold tooth. And thankfully, Grandfather White did away with the evils of Halloween long ago. Now, who can tell me about the ill effects of candy on humans? It makes your teeth fall out. Good, what else? It poisons your insides and makes you die. Bert, great comprehension. What else? Yes, Remy. I'm Ren, not Remy. That's what I said. Anyways, what's your answer? Candy makes kids happy. It's chewy and yummy and gooey and amazing. You don't even know what you're saying. You risk staining your teeth with those precious lies. If you don't remember the lesson, then don't blurt out random gobbledygook. Okay, class, next question. How did Grandfather White liberate the Repugnants? Oh, he lured them out with candy. Wrong. Anyone else? Farted. Duncan, one more outburst from you and it's detention. He stole the witch talisman and used it to make the monsters do what he wanted. Yeah, like teaching this stupid brainwashing class. That's it. Your insubordinates will You insubordinates will go down the hall to detention at once. Happily. Come on, Reynold. I just told the teacher how to use the bathroom, but really I just wanted to wander the halls. I'm supposed to be in detention, but I like it better out here. Okay. Where is it? Clock. Oh, this. More troublemakers? Have a seat next to Haley. Face forward and don't make a peep. Reynold is not in a chair. Hey guys, I'm Haley. What are you in for? We told the truth about Halloween. I guess that's not allowed here. Me too! I told them the costumes are awesome. I can't help it if they are. My dad even made me a rad superhero costume once. But we had to keep it in the shed because it's illegal. Wait a minute, is Everett your dad? Yeah, do you know him? He's our best friend. We went to school together. Quiet! Oh, Ren and Reynold. My mom and dad won't shut up about you. They said you were going to help save us. We tried. Dr. White took our stuff and threw us in here. And his guards took your parents away, too. Sorry, Haley. What? You got my mom and dad? We have to save them. Now, how are we going to get out of here? What is it, human child? I'm trying to update my profile. I feel sick. Can I go to the nurse? Sick, huh? He's waiting, so no signs of illness. You're fine. What is it now? Can I go use the bathroom? You'll have to wait until the bell rings, human child. But actually, you reminded me that I must go to the bathroom. I've been sitting at this computer for hours. Stay in your seats until I get back, and no talking. We will absolutely not do that. Look at the way he walks. Bop, 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 bop. We're not doing anything. Let's go! Now's our chance. Let's get out of here and get our costumes. By the way, I was putting together a costume myself. My teacher confiscated some of the materials. They didn't confiscate this. Nice. Let's get out of here. Excuse me? Powdered wig. Powdered wig. What other materials can we get? Buckle shoes. I think if we go back in here, we'll why are there relatively normal classrooms and then one of them is just a cult circle? I don't know. You know, sometimes classrooms are just like that, honestly. Like, sometimes the teacher is like, okay, we're gonna do this activity, and you're all gonna, sit in a circle. I feel like these teachers cannot distinguish between truth and lies. Get out of here. What are you doing out of detention? You human children are the worst. We were worried about you. We wanted to make sure you were okay. Well, I'm a hooey. Get back in that classroom right now. Jesus. Hey, do you know where they put our stuff, Mr. Grubbin? Ellie tells me nothing. All they tell me is clean the floor. And also put costumes in the closet so nobody can find them. Interesting. Do you mind if we get past you? Sorry, I'm just about to do another coat, just to be sure. Anything we could say that might change your mind? Oh, well maybe, but I don't know what that would be. What about this? I can't help but notice that you're slaving over these floors, Mr. Grubbin. I'll say, would you believe they want the floors clean all the time? Not to mention that I'm stuck with the first generation hover bucket. It looks like back-breaking work. I think you owe it to yourself to take a break. You're right. Maybe I will take a break. My back muscles hurt. Ah, hydrate, thank you. All these voices. Hide costumes in the closet, huh? Yes. Okay. Jefferson is attack 12. Ow. 6, 7, 3. Pumpkin is +9. Candy corn sucks. 5, 0, 7. Okay, so the robot is good. Jefferson's really good though. So we'll keep Jefferson. And then we'll get Pumpkin and Unicorn. Surely a hover bucket would be worse for your back because the bucket is higher up. So you have to lift them up higher every time to get more soap on it. Yeah, maybe. Let's get out of here. Going somewhere? Your behavior has been unacceptable. Look at this list of infractions. Yes. I can read that. Good thing I can read. Disrupting class, skipping detention, kidnapping, stealing school property, kidnapping. These costumes are our property. You stole them first. What do you mean kidnapping? I left because I wanted to leave. I'm not finished. Violating the Costume Act, manipulating our janitorial staff, and attempted escape. Trying to escape is a funny one, humans. There's no way to escape the Toon Academy. At least, not without a proper education. The truth is that it's written in Braille and the principal just draws lines to confuse people. Ah, look at my pumpkin. Look at this list of infractions. I know how to read. Ooh. Will attack. I forgot about the quick time events. Excuse me for being stupid. Yeah! Alright, we're back, Billy. We're back in business. Alright. Let's go. Cool. We got this. We got this. Oh man, he has a lot of health. Gotta keep that heal. Declaration of Destruction. Your mom's a hoe. That's what I said. All Hallows Eve. Ah, it's so good. Stop going after Thomas Jefferson. I guess he does have the highest, he probably has the highest attack. So it would make sense to go after him. Alright, we'll use our heal on Ren. He has the high ground, Anakin. Cool. Quill attack. Man, this fight's easy. I don't know what you're quoting over there. Nice. Okay, just a little more. Earthbound? Ah, I see. I'ma get this guy so bad. Thomas Jefferson reminded me of it. Yes! Strong defense against your weak against actor type. Ooh! Super thirsty. Let's find a water fountain. Gotta be one around here. You found me! We're illegally wearing costumes and playing hide and seek. Want to play? Find all 6 of us to get a prize. Okay. He has a plus 12. It's not my favorite costume, but he has a plus 12 attack, so... Kinda gotta use it. Let's find a water fountain, please. Alright, well, we saved. Some high-stakes hide and seek. Just so the art team didn't have to make more models. No. Monty? Is that you? Oh, hey, it's my old pal. It's good to see you after all these years. I still think back to all them adventures we had back in the day. Before they dredged the swamp to build Auburn Pine. What have you been up to? Well, not much since Dr. Dingleberry took over and tore my place down for Grubbenhausen. This poor guy. I've been hanging out in the sewers with my gators ever since. That's okay. Gertie Jr. is all I really need. Gosh, well, it was good seeing you, Monty. Hey, Shady. Shady? What are you doing here? How many times I gotta tell you, kid? I go where the action is. But it's the future. Time can't hold Shady. Besides, I ain't letting no future chumps move in on my racket. I don't know why Shady suddenly sounds like this, but he does. The accent takes over, and then I can't stop. I can't stop it. It's just this the way I talk now. It's never gonna stop. Okay, I need to shut the fuck up. I don't think I've ever actually seen this competition you keep talking about. Exactly. Now, you want the goods or what? I got some new futuristic stuff here. Tube Academy and Sewers map. Gotta get those. Sackboy upgrade. Didn't know I could get a Sackboy upgrade. Anyways, map. Hey there, Haley. Why aren't you in school? We escaped. That's cool. I know your mom and dad were worried about you. Actually, the dental guard took them away. We need to find them. Oh no, that probably means they're in Dr. White's dental compound. There's a fountain inside the academy if you're able to go back. I am, but I think there's gotta be one up, around here. The place is impenetrable. The security there is redonkulous. There must be some way to get in there, right? Well, oh, there must be some way to get in there, right? Well, there might be a way through the sewers, but I've never tried. You should ask Sadie. She's inside. Knock on the door. The password is Choco Nana. Password? Choco Nana. Haley, Ren, Reynolds. Everett and Lucy sent word that you guys might show up. You know us? Silly. I used to sell you stamps when we were kids. The future isn't so bad. People can unironically say redonkulous. Oh, Sadie! You sure had some great stamps back then. Yeah, creepy treat cards are all the rage now, though. Anyway, what can I do for you? Do you know how we can get into the compound and save Lucy and Everett? Oh, I was afraid you'd ask me that. There is a way, but I'm afraid it's too dangerous for you guys. I'm not going to put you in harm's way, and there's nothing you can say to change my mind on this. I think. I can see that you are concerned for our safety, Sadie. You bet I am. But if we don't save Everett and Lucy, Haley will be on her own without any supervision. And we'll be stuck here in this dystopia without our mom and dad. Oh gosh, that's all so terrible. How did I get stuck with this moral conundrum? Thomas Jefferson, baby! Okay, I'll tell you, but you have to help me with something first. I'm not attaching strings, I just need to hit my candy quotas before I send you back to my boss. If you go pick up some deliveries for me, I'll give the password to my boss's speakeasy on the east side of the city. He's the one that knows the way into Dr. White's compound. Deal. Where are the deliveries? Just go up to our old neighborhood and start knocking on doors. But be careful, sometimes the dental guard likes to set up sting operations and catch our delivery guys. Motherfunkin' Jefferson. Holy shit. Hi, Kent. We can take care of ourselves. We'll be right back with those deliveries. Alright, let's go! Hey! Candy! Candy, candy! Old Auburn Pines. Wow, you treat. What's up, kid? Hey, kid, what are you doing walking around in a costume like that? Haven't you seen those dental drones? They'll chop you as soon as they look at you. That's exactly why we need the costumes. What are you doing on Lucy and Everett's lawn? I just had a combat lesson with Corvus. I'm cooling down out here. It was pretty intense. You know, because I used to have a costume too, but I had to stash it because it was getting too hot around here. Now those drones are sniffing around where I stashed the pieces and I can't get to them. Corvus taught me a lot of moves, but I'm just one kid. I can't take out that many drones on my own. But you guys have numbers. Maybe you could take them out? You're welcome to borrow my costume if you can. New costumes? Sign us up. You're trying to tell me that this 6-year-old kid with a mohawk is not wearing a costume? No, he's not. She's not. They're not. This kid is cooler than me. I don't know what to do about that. Here, I drew up this pattern so I can remember how to put it together again. Wizard! I feel like Double Fine was traumatized by dentists in their childhood. I feel like Double Fine was traumatized by a lot in their childhood. Have you guys seen the trailer for the new game that they're putting out? It looks really cool. You play as like a little tower that can move around and stuff. It looks awesome. Everett's house. Talk to Corvus, see if he can give us new... Hey Corvus. Are we ready? Are we ready for new... No. We're not ready yet. Yeah, go upstairs. Alright. Join the Tooth Academy. Hey. Future's bleak, isn't it? They stopped selling Series 2's Creepy Treats before I was able to find a Rice Creepies card. Now how am I supposed to get one? I don't have a spare one, but I'll trade... If I find one, I'll trade it with you. I'm not going for all of the Creepy Treat cards. I just I don't feel like it. I could just say he was emancipated. I mean, you're already hydrated. You should probably get moving. I feel a sob story coming on. Wow. Trick or treat. Thank you, grown up. That's a lot of candy. Uh-oh, it's a grubbin. Time to kill a grubbin. Grubbin guard is... Ooh, I'm strong against this guy. Why am I so bad? There we go. Damn. Oh, shoot, Ren's on fire. Where are these people getting candy from if it's illegal? Is there an underground candy mafia? Yes. Or is it more of a lackadaisy situation where there are underground caches? Well, we literally just found the underground candy mafia. That's who we were talking to. I am also traumatized by dentists. My timing is way off. We need to get this Magus. Sweet Tooth Speakeasy. Yeah. And hits the hardest, so we gotta keep them. I'm having shit luck with my, or shit, skill with my timing. I'm having shit skill with my mouth. Why are you still alive? Why is my timing so bad? I was just playing so much Mario Party. You think it'd be good? There we go. Come on. Reynolds fucking dead. Come on. If I had a nickel for every great band name If I had a nickel for every great band name I've heard on stream recently, well, I'd have 2 nickels. But it's weird that it happened twice. My Dr. Doofenshmirtz impression. Is it terrible? It's probably terrible. Okay. We're gonna get some water. You have the right tone. Thanks. It's my allergies. Costume piece back there. Oh. I think 10 Papa Fire would be proud. That's like getting too many D&D character ideas that all sound amazing, but I'll never have to, to utilize most of them, even as NPCs when I DM. Also, thank you for telling me that Dan Povenmire would be proud of my Dr. Doofenshmirtz impression. I don't believe that, but I do think he would be entertained by it. I'm gonna listen to a music that is a hybrid of candy pop and swing now. Ooh! I am constantly making new D&D characters. Yeah, he loves fans that are. I know he seems like such a cool dude. Dan Povenmire seems like such a cool dude, honestly. I've seen his like YouTube shorts and stuff. I need to just full attack because I think he's dead. Yeah. Come on, timing. I don't know why I can get the timing on the unicorn, but not any of the others. This reads, fuck you. Ooh, flippity flaps. Let me get some. Slowly heals your heroes after you win. Ooh, I like that. That's the minion's health and half again. Do I have to use that? I don't know. Oh wait, I thought I... Yeah, car meals. Okay. Heals a hero by 25% for 3 turns. Double candy reward. Alright, I think I have a good... I just need to get good. Alright, let's go. Gotta find these costume pieces. This day, greatest accomplishment slash shame as a DM was having an unimportant NPC with no planned name, who, when pressed live at the table, I could think of no name for, so I just said, fuck it, Dan. His name is Dan. And then, unsurprisingly, Dan, who was too unimportant to even prepare a name for, became a center of fixation for the group that returning literally dozens of times by the time the campaign was through. Oh no. Always prepare a name. Always. Costume violators. Yeah. Asshole violator. Wait, no. Don't listen to me. No, nobody should ever listen to me, not even once. It's very weird playing an NPC whose name is also your name, but the weirdness was perhaps fitting since he was a fae. Oh! It's a shout star, always have a name. Okay, our meals. Creepy treat card. Flippity flaps. I want to make a TTRPG, mostly out of spite, but I want to do it. Same? But I don't know... I really like the way D&D works. I, like, truly, honestly like the way D&D works, and I don't think... Like, yeah, there's things you could probably improve, but... I don't know, I like D&D. I like how... I like the sort of middle complicatedness that... well... I guess I didn't need that card. I like the sort of, like, middle complicatedness that D&D 5e is. Like, it's just structured enough that I feel like I am not constantly coming up with stuff. But it's not so structured that I don't feel like I can be creative. Like Pathfinder. I hate Pathfinder. I don't like it. It's too complicated. There's too much stuff to keep track of. All Hallows Eve. I tried to play Pathfinder once, and the character sheet overwhelmed me so much. Just, it overwhelmed me so much. There's a little bit of a glitch with My Pretty Panzania for some reason. That's fine. Yeah, I'm excited for the Kenjamin TTRPG. On a system that's structured enough to feel like a game, but open that it fosters creativity. Yes, that's what I want! Hybrid tabletop / electronic RPG platform a couple years back. And I mean, it literally had... I literally had it functional where I could let people try it out at the time. Then I got completely stuck on trying to fine-tune my rule set while keeping it simple. Yeah, fine-tuning is the hardest part. Because you'll get stuck fine-tuning forever. That's my my dad and my problem with games and like game jams is that we tend to get stuck focusing on little details. Oh, that's Everett's house. Instead of like focusing on the gameplay. So. Whoops. Hopefully I want to see if I can finish making a TTRPG before I receive the Kickstarter rewards that are taking years to fulfill. Aw, man. Kickstarter... The problem that people have with Kickstarter is that they treat it like funding before the thing is complete. Now, yeah, you can do that. However, if you're gonna make a Kickstarter, please have a finished or close to finished product that you just need to polish. Yes, they treat Kickstarter like a pre-order platform. Before any work has even been done. They don't know how much work this project is gonna take. They don't know how much money they're really gonna need. They don't know anything. my dad recently kickstarted a project for me, and I feel kind of bad about this. Moxie also kickstarted this project, which was Puff Pals. And it looked so cute. It was like kind of an Animal Crossing-y vibe, and it had these cute little animals, and it was made by a plushie company. And then the plushie company kickstarted the game before they had anything done, really, and they didn't realize how much work it was gonna be, and then they ran off with people's money. They had to shut down their plushie business. They shut down their plushie business. You can't buy their plushies anymore, even. I wanted it to work so bad. They completely destroyed their entire company because they didn't realize how much work this game was actually gonna be. And so, yeah, Kickstarter needs to be a I need money for the finishing touches sort of thing. Not a I need money for this entire project sort of thing. Oh, shit. Wow. There's no block for that at all. Great. Love that. Let's see if I can get this guy. Like, here's the cost to get it printed and published. Yes. Yeah. It needs to be, like, basically a finished project. In fact, a lot of projects on Kickstarter, thankfully I've only been burned by one project so far out of hundreds, but it looks like 2 of the safest projects I've ever backed may both be going unfulfilled. Oh, man. Like, bake a little extra into the goal so you can have extra product to sell at cons, but yeah, I'll have all your ducks in a row. Yes. Oh, it was a massive disappointment. That sucks. Yeah. We have had fairly good luck with Kickstarters. My dad's pretty good at picking out the ones that won't fail, but that's not to say that he hasn't had any that have failed, but he seems, I mean, he mostly gets like board games done, so board games are pretty safe from what I can tell. Bake a large enough margin into your pricing so that you'll be able to handle unexpected expensive, because inevitably they will come up. It's like when you're getting a house built, or like getting a house built or getting like an addition done on your house, or renovating a house, like an older house. You have to, like, I've seen so many HGTV shows where they're like, okay, you know, we have like this as our budget, and then so many unexpected things come up, and they like can't get them fixed. Random copyright trademark nobody has heard of that apparently patented your entire magic system? Oh gosh. How do I get that costume back there? That sounds rough. There we go. Now I'm back here. What is that in reference to? Like, what? Whose project was that? Was that your project? Was it a Kickstarter? Cotton balls. So bad. There's gotta be another one somewhere. How do I get this wizard costume? It was my own project, and luckily I found out before I got it done, but similar things happened a lot. Oh, that sucks. What was like, who copyrighted your exact magic? Like, that's kind of crazy. Was it, like, D&D, or? I'm looking at free systems like Fate are powered by the Apocalypse. At least I think they're free. Yeah, I think those are free. Well, I got all the deliveries, but I still need to get back there. There's a snail back there. And it's reminding me of the snail. the like infinite the time snail. Oh, there. Found it. Some book, I forgot the author because this was the olden days of 2016. Okay. If you've ever heard of Come On, CMON, they're the single most consistently successful board game company on Kickstarter since 2012. Over the last 12 months, things suddenly took several bad turns all at once. I frankly don't see how they could be capable of fulfilling their obligations at this point. Oh no. That's probably devastating to them, too. Fuck up this pinata. Look at that here. What? Oh, I see. It's on the other side. I see it. I see it. Gotta be pterodactyl. I'm glad to hear that you showered. Welcome in. I'm trying to get the wizard costume. Bow! Look at that pumpkin! He's so cool! Have all cycled out in the last 6 months. Guarantee they took a lovely golden parachute on their way out. Hey, there we go. Yeah, selling your company is a pretty big red flag, honestly. Especially for, like, smaller indie companies. I feel like when indie companies sell to bigger companies, it's never good. Like when Maxis sold to EA. And now, EA is being sold to Fascist. I'm so mad. And I cannot wait for Paralives. I'm not buying any more Sims 4 stuff. I had the latest pack pre-ordered, but I can't. Do you have free access to time travel yet? No. Best VM is the way back, Missy. Yeah. When you do, I can guide you to the secret costume. Oh, right! I forgot about that. Also, nice pumpkin. Thank you. And unicorn. Why did I get 0 XP for that? What is this snail? What is this snail? I didn't know the snail was gonna fight me. What the... What? What the fuck? I didn't know the snail was gonna fight me. That is not a snail. Got a little bit of a broken thing there. It's fine. I hex edited the pre-order costumes in, that's probably why. There's probably something I missed. Looks suspiciously like a xenomorph that has invaded a planet populated by snails. Yeah. It does kind of look like that. Okay, I think I need one more for the wizard. Yeah. I need to find the other one. There's that last chest. Oh, we'll get water soon. Either go heal. Yeah, I'm gonna go heal. I'm gonna go heal. I gotta find this last test. There. How do I get over it? Candy violation! Candy violation! Get Thomas Jefferson, bitch. When did I did that? I already did that. I am very tired. My brain just went red, go heal again. I went, oh yeah, I should go heal. It's like, no, you just did that. I mean, I probably will again after this fight, but like, dang. My brain cannot stay on task for 1 second. It cannot. As a Brit, I suspect I already have been Thomas Jefferson. I think we've all been Thomas Jefferson. I say, having basically no knowledge of most history. It just doesn't stick in my brain. Like, I'm sure I've been taught, but I just truly cannot remember. My brain is too sleepy and sad for streaming, so I applaud your brain. I got to stay up extra late last night. Because my brain wouldn't let me sleep because it was very sad. So, I'm very grateful for you all for being here. Oh shit, my unicorn's dead. How much interest in isn't as melodic as Washington? Your mom! Get wrecked. Hey, thirsty. I know you guys are thirsty. I just have to find... Go back and heal, I guess. Washington. What the mother fucking Washington? Oh my god. How do I get back there? Penny, how do I get back there? Oh, hey, I found it. I truly don't know what you're talking about. So maybe. Glow stick. Hell yeah, wizard. Wizard time. How good's the wizard? Oh, plus 20 attack. I like the pumpkin a lot, but we need our high attackers now. It's pretty wizard, dude. British children are annoying. All children are annoying. We love them anyways. For some reason. Wizard is a glass cannon that does splash damage, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I don't know what the Professor Brothers is. Mice crispy treats. Alright, let's go. And we gotta level up. To Old Auburn Pines. Hey, Shady. Buy the map. Pie cake. Headless horsemen. Ooh. Those are good. A clown and rainbow cloth will get even louder laughs for stronger heels. Let me look at... So we have... 7... Rainbow Clown might be better. Gotta get those upgrades, prioritize those. Where am I going? Gotta pick up the county, now to find Lucy and Everett. AoE heals versus single heal plus revive. Go through the dark tunnel next to Shady. Oh, there's a dark tunnel next to Shady. As much as I want to see what's in there. Oh. Yeah. We have a light. It's right here. Yeah. Nice crispy treats. Go. like a bracing handful of candy after a day in the mines. Huh. Human children, have you come to taste Blob's candy? Not exactly. Sadie told us she knew how to get into Dr. White's compound. Of course Blob knows, but why would Blob tell human children his secrets? Because Blob is nice? Ha ha! Blob has been called many things. Fat, dumpy, smelly, ugly. But nice is a new word to describe Blob. Blob will tell you what. If you human children do some deliveries for Blob in the east side of the city, then Blob will hook you up with a secret. What do you say? I guess that's fair. As a child, Blob yearned for the mines. Blob must keep the candy flowing to his customers. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, so I was thinking, we were talking about doing the solo D&D on like Mondays or whatever, or maybe Thursdays, if Baldur's Gate gets canceled. I was thinking that like, if the people who are regularly on my stream. Oh, this is where you can get the first optional costume. You need it for the secret ultimate costume. Okay. How do I get it? How do I get it? Anyways, talk to the guy next to scratch on the wall and follow that quest. Okay. Oh. I see. But yeah, so when I'm doing solo D&D, if the people who are regularly on my stream, Penny, Moxie, Naomi, maybe, Blackboot, of course, if they wanted to join me, I think it could be fun to, like, maybe play together at sometimes if they felt like it. Hey, how'd you small humans get in here? You don't even have a hard hat. Blob gave us special clearance. He did? Well, that's a relief. We had strict instructions not to let any humans sniff around here. Because of those human artifacts that we found in the mines? What human artifacts? Sorry, small human, I'm sworn to secrecy. There's nothing you could do to There's nothing you could possibly say to me that would make me spill the beans about those artifacts. Are you sure about that? Those artifacts sound valuable. You must be proud to be the one who dug them up. Me? Yeah, I'm a good digger. Did you dig up any other cool stuff? I did dig up a piece of paper with those artifacts, but I couldn't read it. I thought it was plans at first, but it was garbage. That's why it's in the trash pile behind me. And that's it. Nothing useful, just those artifacts and a piece of trash in the pile. Oh yeah. Hiding, kid. I don't even know what a hippie is. Ooh, pharaoh costume. I don't see any footprints out here. Oh, there's some. Hey, more claw marks. Yeah. Retreat. You're in violation of the Candy Act. You suck ass. Hey, look, it's Gandalf. The wizard shouldn't be weak to tech on the grounds of the wizard will install your software now. Ooh, nice. How did I know they were gonna go for the clown? Press the wrong button! Oh yeah, I need to get that conjurer out of here. Actually, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna try that again. Is there a water fountain in here somewhere? There's one up here. I'm running away now. Okay. Well, I don't have any more candy to give to Shady, do I? No. This is just the way to go. It's fine. Everything is fine. Trick or treat. We're gonna kick your ass this time. Alright, let's get him. Start with the fucking conjurer. Gosh. These guys hit hard. I've been fighting basically every guy I see. Trying to gank the mage, but there were two mages. Probably should have healed. Oh well. I didn't. It's fine, we'll heal this turn. Doomstick. No. Oh, shit. Hang on, let me just write this note real quick. It says, your mom. Oh my god. Okay, there's gotta be a water fountain somewhere around here. Let's find it. Hopefully without dying. No! I reacted too late. Okay, I think we heal a little bit. sharing that word with Kenj in the chat. So bad. When you read the words to your mom and you're instantly crushed in that. Wow. I remember when my siblings and I got into your mom jokes. I'm trying to heal. I remember when my siblings and I got into your mom jokes and our mother was confused because we have the same mom. Yeah, our mom gets very confused. Oh, great. I'm gonna need that. Yeah, he fucking poisoned my whole team. Also, what word won't she say? I think I missed it. Yeah, you can go back and read it in chat if you want. I'm gonna die. Chat isn't working, it won't load. Too bad. That really sucks. It really sucks for you. You're not gonna get me, Kenjamin. I refuse. I refuse to let you. Oh, more Kwama. I'm so confused. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are so confused. Yeah. I'm sure that was very confusing for you. I'm sure that incident was very confusing. So I got the green apple boba yesterday. I got this green apple boba. It was a slush yesterday. It is no longer a slush. I kept it in the fridge overnight. It is very apple. And it came in. No. I recommend doing everything else before trick-or-treating. Yeah, probably a good idea. Anyways. You guys are stronger than the wandering dudes. Good to know. It's fine. I got one of them stunned. So he's gonna be dead. gonna explode this guy. Anyway, so it's this green apple slush. And, and it came in, we ordered it, like, DoorDash. And it came in. And the cashier brings it inside. And I just look at it and I go, that is the greenest drink. It was literally the color of, like, the lime green stripe on the clown here. It was literally that green. I'm just like, this is the greenest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was so green. It was like electric green. It was ridiculous. Nuclear green, indeed. Like the most green, like sour green apple candy color ever. It was nuts. Some water. There's like no water fountain around here. I gotta find a water fountain. There has to be a water fountain around here somewhere, right? Eat your... I can eat my candy? What? I didn't know I could do that. That's incredible. Hey, a light. No, I already saw it. It jumped over the fence. I already saw that. Oh, yeah, there's a fountain there. It's degrading having to stand in a mud puddle to protect some human artifact. You don't see those rich downtown grubbins guarding artifacts. They just showboat around all day with their briefcases and their fancy suits. They have more candy than I know what to do with. Where's my candy? They make their candy off the backs of grubbins like me. I am done being exploited. I'm out of here. I don't know what to say to that, but good luck. A depraved mole? He's cute! He's so cute! What? Press the wrong button. An idiot. I love this little clown. He's so funny. He's such a funny little guy. Good squash and stretch, yeah. Very good squash and stretch on the clown. I like that they've done extra squash and stretch on him. Like more than other characters, more than other costumes. Like, why do I keep getting 0 XP? I don't understand. Why are these fights getting 0 XP? Fluffy floppies. Danny. Walmart. I will kill the wandering dude when I'm not all the time dying. There's a lot of wandering dudes. I would like to continue the story. No story. Yes, story. Oh, no fight. Want a story. It's bedtime. Why continue the story at a natural pace when you get over level? Eat the dirt. You eat dirt. That's what that... He just said no. You eat dirt. Bitch, you eat dirt. I gave him a paper, it said eat dirt, and he said fuck you. Just need to level enough to beat the guys hiding in the houses. Okay. I got level so you can blast through the game until you get too far and have to grind out more levels. My least favorite part of games. I'd be able to beat them if my timing wasn't shit. The game is balanced around fighting dudes as you come across them. Yeah, but the problem is you kind of have to seek them out. Like, you can accidentally avoid them. And also, random encounters is my least favorite part of video games. Sandy, I don't feel like... I don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing... I'm so... sick of... Nah. I love this game. Yeah, I keep getting 0 XP for some reason. I don't know why. But I keep getting 0 XP. I don't know if it's because I fucked something up when I hex edited the game. But I keep getting 0 XP. So I don't know if it's just saying that. But yeah, keep getting 0 XP. I followed the instructions. I don't know what I did wrong. This made me think of the not what I'm called. Yeah. Not what I'm called. I guess I'm too used to old JRPGs. But, like, editing the costumes shouldn't have messed with any other gameplay stuff. So, I truly don't know why. And I followed the tutorial, so it really should not have broken the game. No. They're actually worse than some of the costumes actually in the game. Hence why I'm not using any of them right now. Apparently only quests and major battles give XP? Well, then there's no point in fighting these guys. Literally no point in fighting these guys, except maybe a creepy tree card. Does trick-or-treating count as quest? Like, if I go trick-or-treating, is that gonna give me XP? Alright, well, let's find out. I don't know. We'll find out. A black scarf. Hello, pigeons. How do I get... I thought you leveled by fighting, so it shows what I know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't fucking know. Oh, I should have swapped to... Oh, well. Oh! Cool. Make sure you have usable cards equipped also. Yeah, I think all of mine are good right now. Wait, there's the thing up there. How do I get over there? Oh. He didn't step out into the light. Time to fight. Let's see if we get XP from trick-or-treating. Let's find out. Yay. Eat dirt, idiot. Haha, take that. Take that. Haha. Woo, one down. Are we gonna get XP? Let's find out. Did I get XP? I don't know. I don't think so. I forgot to look. I forgot. I forgot to look. Well, but it won't tell me if I got XP from that battle. But I don't think I did. Yeah, I still have 9,200. So nope. Do not get XP from trick-or-treating, it seems. So I need this. There's one on there's like right there, right? I don't know how to get it. Might be a bug. Maybe. Maybe because I starting the game. I don't think that'll help. I can try. I can try. XP is over 9,000. Let's see. Costume quest to XP from after hex editing. Here we go. Anti-grinding mechanic? No. No, it's very helpful. Thank you. I used the hex editor to make the necessary changes to Costume Quest 2, and all of the upgrades for all the costumes aren't showing up as a result because I can't pass level 8 on the XP points. Because no matter who I fight, even if I beat the final dentist boss, I get 0 XP in any fight, and there are no points left to get in the game, and I'm stuck on level 8 of the XP point. This could be a problem with using an existing save that I wasn't aware of, or you may have done the mod incorrectly. You could always verify the game files to restore it and do the mod over. When I did the mod myself, I always started a new game and was able to complete the game from start to finish several times. I would try starting a new game and see if that fixes everything. I'm not an AI! How dare you! All of my art is hand-drawn. The accusation. I believe it is a bug related to the mod. So... here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna verify game files. First I'm gonna back up game files. I'm gonna back up the game to the desktop. 1 second. Folder. Okay. So we're gonna create a backup, and then we're gonna. If Jack of all trades, master of none is better than a master of one. If Jack of all trades, master of none is better than a master of one draws games is an AI, that would certainly be the most impressive one I've seen. If you're an AI, how would I know you weren't an AI program to believe you were a person? Have you ever taken a replicant test before? Yes, quizzically. You know? Maybe it would explain the autism. Okay, I'm gonna verify game files. It was fun to see the costumes, but perhaps, one, the files failed to validate and will be reacquired. Cool. I believe I have fixed it. Oh my god, all of us neurodivergents are AI. Yeah, haven't you seen the sci-fi films? Where either robots or AI or, you know, something like that. Or aliens. I pick alien. I called alien. You guys can't have it. It's mine. I'm an alien. You guys can't be an alien because I picked alien. We have to balance the party, you know? We can't all be aliens. Being a self-hating AI would explain my depression. Yeah. Mood. I'm the moth cryptid. Good choice. Good class. To be fair, it's better than fantasy films where we're fairies or skinwalkers. Traditionally, in both cases, we'd be tortured to death. Oh, you know, I'm definitely a changeling, so... I thought we were all some kind of superpower genius, like in that Bruce Willis movie. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It crashed. Yeah, they claimed a cyborg. I seek to become bored from Star Trek. Yeah. I broke everything. I'm black. They're not even here. They're not even here. If this crashes again... If this crashes again, we'll do something else for the last hour. That's why they're a perfect scapegoat. Okay, if this crashes again... I will get us back to where we're supposed to be. Yeah. Okay. So, off stream, I will get us back to where we're supposed to be. That will be my goal for today. In the meantime, I'm gonna take a quick break and figure out what we're gonna do in the meantime. So, hold on. I'll be right back. Okay. So, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. Um, First of all, I'm gonna get a background. First of all, first of all, the Jack Draws Discord server will see its first usage since the dawn of time. Yeah, true. Oh, what did this save as? Oh, it saved as something stupid. Can't let that happen. All right, there we go. Where did that go? How is it all the way up there? All right, there we go. Now that we have a background. Uh, okay, here's what I want to do. I am going to browse files here, and I'm gonna replace them with the ones that I got earlier. Hmm. Okay. Uh, we have to rehex edit this. Oh boy. Okay, well, let me find it. Let me find it. Hmm. You know, I may have found my problem. There's a little thing here that says XP right after the costumes. That may be it. So, we're gonna save that. And we're gonna try again. We're gonna try again. Let me see if I just fixed it. I thought that was an appropriate place to Yes, links just straight up don't work. I need to fix it. I haven't because nobody uses it. So, yeah. And I probably won't fix it because, I'm tired. Okay. Let's get this full screen again. It's one of those things that Carlbot has automatically. Okay, let's see. Okay, we're back. Now let's see if we can get some XP. Let's go find someone to fight. Can I fight you? I fight you. Let's fight. Lock in real quick. Honestly, I'm thinking about shutting down my Discord and just using the Blacking crew as I have been. Because nobody does anything in my Discord, so I may like promote the Blacking crew in my Discord and just be like, if you want to find me again, you can go there. Because truly, I kind of feel like it's unnecessary at this point to have my own Discord. Like, it never does anything. Ew, help, that's annoying. So, I don't know. Like, I truly don't feel like it's necessary to have. And I need to get rid of the link, honestly. Whatever you want. Cause nothing happens in my Discord and I feel like it's just there. And you have a very nice community that I would like to steal for my own. Thank you. It just feels a bit redundant. Grand Theft community. Yeah. Kill Ren, that's annoying. Yeah, the community is poppin'. Eat dirt, idiot, teeth, robot. This sign can't stop me because I can't read. Yep, I fixed it. I fixed it. I got XP. I fixed it. Yes! I fixed it. I fixed it. Oh my god. Thank God. I don't know if Penny's still here, but I fixed it. So, okay, here's the problem. Here's what happened. The hex editor, very important to do correctly. Very important to hex edit correctly. Because if you don't, and you go a little bit too far, you delete all the XP. So, if you're gonna hex edit your game, be careful. Be careful. I understand what happened there, okay? Oh, why not? Every time. I just want, yeah, full screen. Full screen dang game. When you be even more careful when trying to manually remove Microsoft's free spyware that comes with Windows 11. I can't even upgrade to Windows 11. They won't let me. They're like, hey, your computer sucks. Can't upgrade to Windows 11. And I'm like, my computer does not suck, thank you. Yeah, upgrade, quote unquote. I believe there is a way to get Windows 11 without all the spyware. I saw something about it online. Unfortunately, my other computer probably already has it. So, yay. Paid $10 for the professional license just so that I could block Windows 11. Like it... I don't know if I have to. And then I keep seeing people saying, well, just use Linux. I was like, yeah, you could just use Linux, but Linux is complicated. Like, Linux is really, really complicated. And you have to know about coding and all of this stuff just to be able to set it up and start it. No, I don't want AI or Copilot either, but, like, Windows is accessible. Linux is not super accessible because you have to have knowledge of Linux to use it. It's just not a new programming language, no big deal. Did you know that there are some kids who don't know how to create a folder on their desktop? Like, some kids don't know how to make a folder on their desktop. No programming, etc. required nowadays. Maybe, but you still have to know that it exists. And Windows is so widespread. So, I don't know. I'm not defending Windows. I'm saying that it's probably here to stay because people don't like change. I agree that Linux is probably better. I work with senior analysts who don't know how to add two cells together in Excel. I don't know how to do that, but I could probably figure it out. Leaving Windows is scary. Yeah. It's a toxic relationship. You're not defending Windows, you're acknowledging Windows' monopoly. Yes, exactly. Yes. How do I get onto the... How do I get onto the room? Let me message Penny real quick. Penny, come back. I don't know how to play the game by myself. You're also not a senior analyst making 6 figures of income, not understanding the most basic function of your job. Yeah, true. Like, look, how do I get up there? How do I get up there? Alright. Well, okay, they said that the guy went back in the sewer, right? We can follow that. Yeah. Like the creature went back to the sewers. Water, but then these lead over here. Right? need the pirate costume, don't I? Huh? Eh? How do I get across here? I need... How do I get across here? Sorry, I dropped my controller for a second. I think in the modern age, software literacy is as valuable, if not more valuable, than actual math. Yeah. I think it's so funny that somehow in the divide between the UK and America, maths got turned into math with no S. And I truly don't know how that happened. Like, for some reason, that was a big cultural divide. I think, if I remember correctly, because I think I looked it up at one point, that, it has something to do with, it has something to do with printing presses? And America just, like, removing a bunch of letters from stuff because they wanted to print things cheaper. And I think that's what happened. Yeah. I want my dad to teach me how to program. I want to learn how to program even if he doesn't teach me, but I think it'd be fun if he taught me. I spent the last 6 months teaching one of them the basic concepts like how to sum numbers, band, how to do basic lookup, and they literally just quit a few weeks ago. They found a job that lays 20k more a year, and they got through the skill test because I was teaching them Excel. Bro, programming is very satisfying. It is, but I'm so bad at it. But my dad is my dad can program. If I called him a good programmer, he would tell me I'm lying. That's why I say that. That's why I say it like that. Cause he's like, no, I'm not a good programmer. I'm a hack, and he says that about everything. Like he does community theater as well, and he's like, I'm not a good actor. I'm just a hack. I think he's good. I think he's good, but he doesn't want to listen to me. Okay, well, I know now why I've been dying so much. Imposter syndrome. Yeah. Yeah. He's like me. He is very jack of all trades, master of none. We both have, like, infinite hobbies. I should have healed. Any programmer works there. Salt is a hack. Why code original code when same script already exists? Yeah, exactly. IMO, most of the good developers out there only get good because they don't get too prideful about it. Yeah. I just wish he would stick to a project. Although our last game jam, he taught me how to add, like, my own stuff, basically, into our game. With, like, Unity's version control thing. Which totally broke everything, by the way. Unity version control sucked ass. But I now know how to do that stuff. So, like, I was able to create these tiles for our game straight in Unity. And it saved us so much time because Dad didn't have to do it. So, yeah. I gotta fight these guys because I really gotta get my XP up. I put a digital sticky note on my computer today because I've been trying to I've been like, okay, what kind of content do I want to put on my YouTube channel, right? Because I want to make, you know, actual videos, and stuff. And the note I put on my desktop today is just create. Now, I still have to think about, like, what I want to do for the video, but I'm hoping in the next year, because it's October, I will have a few YouTube videos up. Like by the end, by January, I want to have a YouTube video on my channel. That's my goal. I don't know if that'll happen, cause how do I put this? I have very ambitious plans for Christmas. I know it's Halloween. Nobody wants to talk about Christmas during Halloween. But I have ambitious plans, and I have to get started soon. Because it's gonna take like a weekend for each one, I think, at least. I ran a couple channels before when YouTube was newer. It used to be easier, I think, to just get started on YouTube. People expect higher quality now. Trick for me was just getting out of my own head. Yeah. I really have to get out of my own head. Streaming's so easy for me. Streaming is just come up with funny title and go. And just yap. Yap as long as you can and talk to chat when there is chat. And you have to be able to talk without chat as well. I'm not very good at talking without chat, so I'm glad you guys are here. But I'm doing my best to get better at it, and I think I have gotten better at it. I think there's a lot less dead space from when I started streaming, even just like the beginning of this year, right? From when I started streaming more seriously this year, and yeah, it's just, I think it's good. I think I'm getting better. Being consistent is important. I definitely need to work on that. Yeah. Yep. If you want to get suggestions from us, then I'd love an art tip video. It's easy to find tutorials for realistic or anime art style, but your cozy pastel style is harder to get support for. Is it? Well, thank you. I could do that. That's a good idea. I don't have a notebook. Let me add it to my sticky note. See, where is it? Gotta find it. Let's see. Video ideas. Art tips video. That actually, I might just, yeah, that actually goes well with my sort of just create motto, so I like that. I wasn't quite sure what to do with the title of just create, but yeah, that's a good idea. Alright, there we go. Written down. Thank you, Luke. Jack makes things. Yeah. I mean, I'm still gonna be Jack Draws Games, but, you know. I truly have no idea where to go, and Penny is no longer here. So I'm just fighting things. We're just yapping. We're hanging out. It's chill. Just a bunch of friends. I need like a quick splash screen for the beginning of my videos, I think. Maybe I'll like animate something. Maybe I'll make it the beginning of my stream, like the beginning of my stream thing. I was thinking you could call those videos that. A lot of channels will do 3 or 4 types of content, and they'll have a name for each series on their channel, basically. Yeah. I definitely have a few different series in mind. I want to do a game dev series. Some kind of, you know, me learning how to code kind of thing. Which is the sort of Jack Draws Games series, right? Because Jack Draws Games. Which is where that came from, by the way. Was I wanted to make games, and I was looking for a new username, basically. Because my old username was really dumb. And I was like, well, my name is Jack. And I draw. And what do I want to draw? I want to draw games. I want to make games. So yeah, I want to do a game dev series. I want to do a doll making series. With like digital sculpting and stuff. And I guess maybe some kind of D&D thing. Character design, drawing thing. I don't know. I think no matter what we do, it'll be fun. I have ideas. I just haven't committed to making any of them yet. The thing that gets me the most, though, is, like, video editing. I don't know how to edit videos. I just straight up don't. I also think, like, vlogs would be fun. Like, if I'm doing something, they would be, like, occasional, right? Because I don't want to reveal my home address or anything. But, like, if I was going somewhere special, then maybe I could do, like, a little vlog thing. I think that would be fun. I know if I went to the aquarium or something. I have this really nice, fancy DSLR camera. And I have nothing to do with it, basically. And like, I want to, you know, take pictures and do, like, doll photography and stuff. But it also, like, it also does video, so. Video editing is surprisingly simple. The sound engineering is the tough part for me. Oh, yeah, sound, sound engineering. I forgot about that. Trick or treat. Am I done yet? Doug said I was sure. Blob wants me to get 3 candy deliveries from the city. Need to find a way to get to the lesson. Okay. I need a pirate costume. Okay, there's another delivery somewhere. Is it this one? I guess I missed this one. Okay, we got him. Let's go back to the sewers. Get these deliveries to Blob. Is that a, like, Bob joke? His name is Blob? Am I stupid? Scratch candy, Blob. If you can get further in the sewers, there's a speakeasy for the rich guys. Password is sweet wet wheat. Okay. I leveled up again! Yay! I need to get further into the sewers. Which I think would be this way. So I need to get that last bit of costume. But I don't know how to get up onto the roof. Let me look it up. Let me look it up. Costume. Quest. 2. New. How to get Pharaoh costume quest 2. I know you were to the third door because you need the Pharaoh costume for that. I went through the game so quickly. I don't remember where I got the whole stuff. Just keep exploring every nook and cranny. I managed to find what was keeping me stuck, and that was completely forgetting Jefferson's diplomatic ability. I've only used it once, saved and continued the game a few days later. I had to use it on Sadie with the delivery quest. Blah, blah, blah. Oh. No, I already know that. Come on, come on, come on. New Repukia, New Repukia. East side, the future. Okay. Go south and knock on the house door to fight some monsters. Talk to the worker in front of the next house who's promising to make a move. Just go black scarf on the next level. Get back down. Continuing to follow the map. Just... oh. Okay. Close there. Just south of the house. The fence. The fence just north. Where's that fence with the claw mark? I don't want to fight him right now. I'm looking for claw marks. Here. That's just this customer. Just south. Walk into the back of the house behind him, collect the pinata, and continue up the stairs to the chest that contains everything. I don't know what this means. Fence? Okay. Pile of away and examine the wall to see more claw marks. On the house. Fight these guys. Is the next step. Next step, fight these guys. Boing, boing, boing. Boing. I hate when they have 2 HP left. It's so annoying. My throat's starting to be a little sore from all my yapping. I need to get better at yapping. Skill issue. Nice. Robot. Yeah! Look at that timing. Come on. We don't need our supers. We'll have them for next round. Yeah, look at that. Woo! I need to plug in my iPad because it's got my tutorial on it. But because I don't have Penny. I don't have Penny to help me. She left. She left me all alone. Okay. So. Supposed to go back down, go left, Actually, yeah, can I go get a map from Shady? Where's Shady? Shady! Map. Pterodactyl update. Next 3 defense or automatic block. Stun all enemies. Stun all enemies for 1 turn? Taking that. Pterodactyl upgrades. Superhero upgrade. Okay. Let's go! Back up. Because then I have a map. So, now I have a map. Off the construction worker 30. He will give you. Corners, a hidden kid. Connor puts a house with a village. Go south and knock on the house. Door to fight monsters. The house, some claw marks. Go stick to follow them. Alley, talk to the worker in front of the next house, make a move. Next billet has more claw marks. Follow them when they hop over the wall. Trying to start with yeah, okay. Pulling the straight around here's a helicopter sentry. Continue around the bottom of the map, go away the pile of leaves, and examine the wall. Go stick, follow the path, cross the street. Follow the row of houses east. Follow the row of houses. Delivery, fence, stuff, business. I don't know what fence they're. Oh, I think that literally this fence. No. Hopped over the fence. Maybe this way. Ah, okay. More scratches here. Okay. Just go stick to follow the trail. Sorry, I know me following a tutorial probably isn't the most entertaining thing, but I'm literally so stuck. Okay. Doomstick. Thank you. Declaration of destruction. Eat dirt, idiot. Eat paper. Boing, boing, boing. Content. Everything is content. Even me being bad at video games. I really hope I can clear this area before the end of stream. I love this game so much. It is so pleasant to look at and pleasant to play. Even if I'm not great at the button presses. It's the only reason I have any faith that I can stream gaming, because I'm terrible at it, but I enjoy it. As long as you're having fun, I think other people around you will have fun too. So at least that's what I've been told. And I'm having a blast hanging out with you guys, so I hope that you are also having fun. Alright, anyways, okay, we're gonna follow them here. Hell yeah. South of this house. Just south of this house is a worker that won't let you buy. Ah, here we go. Good sir. There's a candygram for Mongo. Huh? Candygram for Mongo. For me? That is big coincidence. Mongo like candy. I'm having so much fun. That's another concurrent data point. Yay! I have to pick it up at the mines, though. Fine by Mongo. Candy totally worth it. Sorry, Mongo. I feel a little bad. How much candy comes out of these? It's so much fun. I know not all of it is collectible, but it's still fun to look at the effect. Of just the candy, like, spewing everywhere. There we go! Okay, golden hanger! Now we have the pharaoh costume. Now we can do this. Alright. My favorite streams are often ones where you feel like you're just on the couch watching a friend play a game. It's the sort of thing that keeps me coming back to a stream. That is the exact vibe that I'm hoping to bring to my streams, is that we're just hanging out. Like, like Game Grumps vibes, you know? You know when you're like watching a Game Grumps video and you're like, yeah, these are just my friends and we're just hanging out. I definitely saw them sliding it down with their bare hands this time. I don't pretend to understand the game. It's definitely a parasocial vibe to streaming, yeah. Hey, I see this kid, but I can't get to this kid. Oh, can I go under here? Hi. I found you. Okay. Wait. Hey! How did you get here? Did you acquire zipline technology? We're trying to get into Dr. White's compound. Do you know how? Of course I do. I even have a key. It's not a good time. I'm stressed out. Don't bother me now. What's stressing you out? Well, it's just that the Grubbin Elder is withholding my candy delivery. Down to my last crate of king-size fun-size bars. It's totally cramping my style. Want us to pick it up for you? Yeah. Oh, I revoked my candy license. Pretty sure there's nothing more to say on that matter that I can think of. Mr. Elder, if you don't have your deliveries, what good is your candy license? Maybe there's a chance Dr. White ruins you if you give us the key, but you're ruined for sure if you don't get your deliveries, right? Yes, that's true. Okay, if you get my deliveries, I guess I can let you borrow the key to my compound. You need to knock some doors downtown to get most of them. Some of them are up on the rooftops. The Grubbin Elder is up there too. He's got a big fatty delivery. I need that one the most. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. Be right back. Alright, let's go. I mean, I started streaming because I was lonely. I just totally keep mistaking Dr. White with Walter. That's really funny. Took some candy. Same brain. Trick or treat. Wow, 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 wow. But yeah, I started streaming because when I originally started streaming, I had just moved to a new town and I literally had no friends. Pretty much. Maybe it was a few years after middle school, maybe it was high school, but essentially I had no friends. And I needed something. I wasn't I've never been a popular person. I've never been the type of person that's like surrounded by people. And if I was surrounded by people, they were probably making fun of me behind my back. Or right to my face, but generally behind my back. And so even the small amount of friends that I did had at the time, we then moved. And I didn't know anybody here. And nobody really wanted to be my friend. And I was super depressed, to be fully honest. And I needed something to do. I wasn't going to school because going to school made me feel awful. And I needed something to do, so I started streaming from my bedroom with my laptop on my lap. And eventually I upgraded to a PC. But yeah, and I didn't have many people watching my streams at first. I had a few people, and it was basically just my family. And then I took a hiatus for like a year because I just got really bad. And I had gotten to affiliate, so I'd gotten 100 followers before my hiatus, but then I went on hiatus and none of my regulars came back. That's not true. There's a couple people who were regulars before I went on hiatus that that do occasionally come back to the streams. If you've seen Luna has been a regular in my streams since basically since I started streaming. And I really appreciate them for it. But yeah. So I took a big long break, and then we moved here to this house with everybody in it now. And I started streaming again, and truly it is only thanks to Blackvoot, and I hope they're still here. It is only thanks to them that all of you guys are here, and I get to hang out with all of you guys basically every day. If it was my choice, I would be streaming literally every day. But I have other responsibilities to do. So, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Okay. I run the biggest resort in town, but it's time for me to expand my business. I want to absorb Crestwaller Cove across the way. Crestwhaler Elder has agreed to sign this contract. You gotta take some credit too. If you gotta be super fun, you gotta be super fun to keep said audience. Yeah. and I'm not saying, you know, none of it is my doing, right? Because I must be doing something right if you guys are here. But I think literally almost everyone in chat is one of Black's friends. So they deserve a little credit to my success. Get its signature and bring it back. And I will be the richest monster in the city. Okay. I could do that. Blue ones. Neck things. Fancy pants. That's funny. Trick or treat. No candy, just me. Get wrecked. It's Thomas Jefferson time. What a crew we are. Thomas Jefferson, a wizard, and a clown. I gotta get my timing back. But yeah, I was feeling really sad last night. I'm just like kind of lonely. Even though my friends had been over, literally, like they had just left and I was going to bed, and I just like could not stop crying, and I just felt like very lonely. So I even was like, I don't know if I want to stream today, but I'm really glad that I did because you guys are awesome. I'm getting all sappy. You have to do a sappy Jack. Gotta learn to block, man. Get exploded, idiots. Sappy Jack, the villain in the next Borderlands game. Yeah. Evil out. Oh, there was a water fountain literally right here. Whoops! I didn't have to use my candy. Teacher is paid good candy to spout these lies. Use your noodle. Hey, child. Alright, I need to find the crest whaler. He said it was like down the way, so maybe if I just keep going. It's boring. I guess all this stuff is true. Why would they go all this trouble to make it up? I brought my sketchbook. This is cool. I like it when Duncan talks about farts. Oh gosh, they should call this place Snoozeville. I bet I could catch a pigeon. Alex. Smells funny here. I don't like it. I think I want to be like Grandfather White when I grow up. No, you don't. Oral White DDS begins the construction of New Repugia, to house the burgeoning Repugian population. Heroic young Oral White DDS defeats the witch oppressors to liberate the Repugians. Oral White DDS and the Repugian elders signed the Candy Act of 1986, ridding humans of the biggest blight on society and setting Repugians up for prosperity. Yeah. Because he's a dentist. I bet I could catch a pigeon, his daily thoughts. A generation later, Overlord White DDS makes good on his promise. Repugians are more prosperous now than any previous point in their history. Overlord White DDS completes his mission of making the world a dental utopia for humans. Under construction. Come back soon to behold another historical accomplishment by Overlord White DDS. Yeah, are these like dental tools? Whoa! Get up here. Kind of like... can kind of glitch up here. You can see that they're dental tools. Anyways. I get it now. Okay, where am I supposed to go? They said they wanted to do something with Crest Whaler Cove. What's up, Shady? So we got this one. Apparently there's another one, like, back somewhere back there. Hmm. What is that? Can I get, like, across the street somehow? Is there a crosswalk somewhere around here? I don't see a crosswalk. This has the crosswalk here. How do I get... Maybe there's another... Maybe there's another sewer entrance? There's a thing here. Oh, this is back down here. Hmm. I don't think there's anything I can find in here. Look at my guide again, because I'm lost. Oh, I forgot about that. Glow stick. Hello, animal. How you doing? It's always nice to see you in chat. Mm. Oh, I see. There's like a whole thing up here. Got it. Ooh. Candy key. Alright. It is nearly time to... Nearly time to head out here. So let's go back down and save. There's a save point. Yeah. What? Okay. That was weird. Controller got disconnected somehow. But will be on very soon. Make sure I'm ready to raid. I'm ready to raid. So what I'll do is I will put out here. And I'll play the music. I'll get ready to raid. Oh. Let me go find the Black Boots channel. I was waiting for Declaration of Destruction to be used again so I could say you just got Jeffered, son, but alas, it did not come to pass. That's so funny. Hey, I'm being suggested on Black Boots channel. That's cool. I gotta wait for them to go live. Let me just hang out. Look how well I fit into this background. I've got Costume Quest color palette. Hell yeah. Banana? What about banana? No rush. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You're allergic to bananas? That sucks. I may or may not be allergic to watermelon. You never got to just It's good. Don't worry about it. We're chilling. We're hanging out. We're good. We're all good. We're hanging out. We're stimming. Yeah, I may or may not be allergic to watermelon. Found that out a few months ago. I was allergic to nuts for 5 years. Was? You're no longer allergic to nuts? Crazy. I know allergies can change, but it surprises me every time. Banana has a naturally occurring form of latex in it, so latex sensitivity means banana allergy. Oh. Like throat closing up allergies. And you just like woke up one day and you were fine? Yeah, Freedom Friday on a Tuesday. Latex sensitivity in the age of plastic can't be fun. Yeah. Okay. Yay! Yay! Alright, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Alright, children. It's time for the babysitter rotation. That's so weird. Single file line, everyone. Come on, line up, line up. Everyone make sure you're in the raid. All right. Time for your next class. Looks like it's art class next. I'll see you guys over there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for hopefully Baldur's Gate 3, but maybe solo D&D if we get canceled again. All right.